Hey everybody, Jay Barrino here. Thanks for joining me today. Very special announcement, and I hope you all check out the new game, Battle for Vera. It's created by none other than Matic, member of the Jay Barrino community, been around for a long time, created things such as Zealot Commando, Quest Adventure Begins, Mercenaries in Space, really fantastic maps that have been showcased on my channel in the past. But I'm here today with him and Necron for this new title, Battle for Vera. We played a demo for this, I want to say it was 6+ months ago. It was a while back, but I'm really excited to see that the game is released. So, Matic, you're here with us. Can you introduce yourself and kind of give us your background with this game?
Yeah, sure. I'm Matic. I work as a programmer, and I'm a, let's call it, hobbyist map maker. Like you said, your audience probably can know me from some of the maps I released on the StarCraft 2 arcade. But nowadays I'm kind of dipping my toes into proper game development, right? And releasing my first commercial game called Battle for Vera.
Yeah, and I've played the demo. I'm actually really excited to play the rest of the game. So I have so many questions just in general about game dev, but just to get started, I want to hear about the game specifically. Can you just kind of talk to me about... So there's footage going on right now, so people can kind of tell this is definitely inspired by classic Westwood, Dune 2 especially. Can you just tell us about Battle for Vera?
Loud and clear. I'm going.
Okay. Yeah, so Battle for Vera is first and foremost classic RTS, real-time strategy, right? So classic in a sense that it has all the elements you might know from other RTSs, like base building, resource gathering, and unit management, right? Both micro and macro levels. So probably it is also worth noting that it's rather simple RTS. You won't find many additions from newer games like maybe heroes or some sort of global abilities. There are some quality of life enhancements, let's say, when it comes to UI or controlling of units, but nothing out of the ordinary. Mostly basic stuff, just to make the game a bit modern, you know. If you want to compare it to Dune 2, well, the original Dune 2 was very hard to play. Modern gamer probably wouldn't be very keen on or wouldn't really enjoy playing Dune 2 right now. So I wanted to make sure that everything you could expect from RTS right now is there, right? So besides that, it's Battle for Vera is just a single player game. I haven't implemented any sort of multiplayer. But I think there is plenty of content because there are 3 campaigns, each has 10 missions, although there are some branching choices, so you don't have to play all 10 missions to complete any specific campaign. But those, well, 30 missions total, if you want to complete them all, should give you around 10 to 15 hours of playtime.
That's awesome, and I think the way you described it, which is like, it's a retro RTS, right? It's supposed to give you the vibes of kind of those mid-90s or earlier RTS titles, but without the agonizing quality of life, the lack of quality of life, I should say. So from what I played of it, again, I've played the demo, and I played a few of the missions on the proper release before chatting with you, and it feels good to play, but it really gives you that classic feeling. You really capture that well. And I guess before we get too far, and I want to also introduce our third joiner here. We have Necron, the creator of UED AIP, who has contributed to the design of this project. So Necron, if you want to kind of give us your intro to this project and kind of how you've contributed to it.
So hi, I'm Necron. Like Jay said, I'm mostly known for my StarCraft mod. But I actually worked as a game tester and game designer before that. Before working on Vera, I guess. So working with Matic wasn't my first experience with a standalone game. And how I got around to helping Matic was that when Jay originally recorded his video of the first 3 missions, when Matic released them on each ear, I made a comment after playing the demo, and then some time later Matic reached out to me to talk about what I talked in the comment, and then we kind of conversed afterwards. He asked me if I would like to help with testing. I obviously said yes. And from testing, I also kind of had the opportunity to make some comments about the design. And then eventually I also helped with level design and AI in some maps.
It's really cool to see you two working together on this. Matic, just from all the things that I've played that you've made in the StarCraft 2 arcade, you definitely have a gift for really interesting game design, and it's interesting to see how you've sort of tailored it down to this again more retro style experience. But then when I played the demo, I think I lost on. I'm positive I lost on the third mission, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. Like, it's nice to see a game that just lets you lose. It feels like a lot of modern real-time strategy, especially, but a lot of modern games, they're just not. They're a little timid to just kill you. And when I played that, I thought, oh, UED AIP kind of had that similar style, so it's very fitting to see, Necron, that you've contributed to this product. But that was in effect before you even were on the project. So Matic, you're even in the original demo, your AI killed me. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts just sort of on the difficulty and the design, especially with how the AI functions. What can the player expect when they're in the campaign? Versus early campaign, mid campaign, late campaign. How can they expect that difficulty to affect them?
Okay, well, so I should probably start by saying that I really wish I could have more than just one default difficulty level. You have this kind of idea what's the perfect difficulty level, but when you start to give out or when you release the demo and you see other players play your game, it's kind of frightening because seeing them lose and seeing them be frustrated, maybe not in every case, but it happens, automatically makes you think that, okay, this should be easier, or this should be harder if someone beat this level too easily, right? So I really wish we could have some different difficulty levels, but I don't want it to be very easy, right? I want game to be challenging, right? We can have some tutorial levels at the very start, like first or second levels can be very easy, and that's fine. But later on, I want there to be some sort of challenge, right? So you can feel that okay, this wasn't that easy. I overcame the challenge, and there is some sort of satisfaction. Coming back to your question about what players can expect, well, I guess it kind of goes back to our background we have as map makers, right? When we design maps for StarCraft or any other games, we have some framework already existing, right? And we can only work on that framework. And the place where we can express our creativity are places like map design or AI, right? It can be AI like in StarCraft, when you directly specify the rules that AI must follow, or it can be something more like trigger-based, when you spawn the enemies from different angles or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but this is what you can do, and this is what we did in the past, right? This is what we know how to do. And similar thing happened in Vera. We don't, at least I don't have much experience in game design overall, right? I'm not entirely sure how to make the factions balanced, or what units would be interesting to play, or I don't really have many fun ideas to create some sort of interesting abilities. But I know I'm really good in working with what I already have, right? So with that, I could, when designing levels for Vera, I could really get into it and make sure that with the simple framework, Vera is obviously a very simple game, right? You don't have that many units. Maps are really small. But what I could do, I could come up with some interesting ideas how enemy could, could attack you, could do different kind of tricks to trying to outsmart the player, right? And the player would be surprised by it wouldn't be just back and forth sending waves of unit, but AI could detect that you started, expanding to the right side, so it would try to counter that. And I think this is what player can expect in really deep map design, and the AI that maybe not really feels like playing against the real opponent like human being, but something that will try to outsmart you, and that will try to surprise you in some ways.
And I think that's really important. It's a counterweight, I think, to a lot of modern design where I think I'll use StarCraft 2 as an example because it continues to be the largest modern RTS, but the campaigns are built more around like each map kind of has an idea, and the AI is just like one element that exists on the map that you interact with, but it's not very robust, right? But when I played Vera, when I played the demo, and I saw the AI, was like, oh, they're expanding. Like, they're moving out because they need more resources. This is not something that exists in StarCraft 2. I think a lot of people might be quick to say one way is the right way and one way is the wrong way. I think they're just different approaches to the design. But personally, I tend to err on the side of having an AI, again, that's more flexible and actually will respond in ways and is constrained by resources. Sometimes you have to make it cheat a little bit, I understand, but for the most part, again, it feels like you're fighting an opponent that actually wants to win and isn't just there to be beaten or to interact with a larger map mechanic, like a moving wall of fire that's chasing you, or you have to escort the big Thor as it marches through the map, right? That's the map, and the enemy is just a small part of that. Whereas for Vera and a lot of these older real-time strategies, the AI is literally the map design in many ways, right? You terrain and then you put the enemy on it, and how the enemy interacts with you on the map is what makes the experience unique and engaging. So that's been my personal thought on that. And UED AIP did that really well as well. Necron, I was curious what your thoughts were on that.
So there's so many things I kind of wanted to touch or talk about while you guys were responding, and it's kind of hard to remember them all. But one thing about the difficulty that I really want to say is I think me and Matic were so incredibly shocked when the demo was first released and we saw how many people can't even win the first mission. Like, there were so many changes or ideas of what we should change, or what Matic should change, I guess, so that the very first mission, the tutorial one, when you just have to build 6 bots, is actually has a higher win rate for first-time players.
Wait, so not the first, not all 3, but literally the first mission?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the very first mission. Like, there's a YouTube video of a Korean player that just found it on Steam, I guess, and started playing. We had like no contact with him, and he fails the first time he's playing the map. He's like completely killed by the couple of troopers that the enemy sends at you. And it's like it was actually incredible in the way that I felt that every time Matic had an idea on how to improve that, we found someone who would lose anyway, even if he added the change. And later we resorted to like ideas of how you could maybe add infinite resources to the player so they can't accidentally end up without any pipes, because that's something that happened. But we decided against it because then you would have mechanics that aren't really congruent with the rest of the game. And I wanted to avoid that because it sounded silly. Okay, but that's just a little side story. Another thing with difficulty is, or like maybe not really with the difficulty itself, but one thing stood out to me when Matic was saying that he didn't really have a clear vision for the units or abilities or stuff like that. I had the best meme game dev position that exists, where I was basically an ideas guy. And I think it worked out exactly because Matic didn't like have a super well-defined scheme for the factions ready. So when I had an idea and it made some sense and he liked it, it actually was implemented. Which led us to some better defined faction balance and some faction characteristic that we ended up with that aren't really there in the original demo that he played. The EGO one. And yeah, I really liked how the factions developed over time. And then finally going to difficulty. I completely lost track of the original prompt.
Well, we were talking about, I guess, the difference, or I was talking about, I sort of prompted how the difference between an AI that's sort of just there on the map to interface with a different map design versus an AI that is kind of core to the map and will try to kill you. And I appreciate older RTS and something like Vera that kind of harkens back to it, where they're like, you know what? Yes, the AI is your main opponent. There's not some wall of fire chasing you across the map, and they will kill you if you let them.
Okay, I think I was going to reiterate what Matic said, which is you basically have finite content in Vera, right? Because you don't have multiplayer and you don't have some kind of skirmish mode where you could maybe, I don't know, play against different combinations of AIs on different maps. You only have the campaigns, so you have to make the campaigns in a way that actually presents the game to the player. You can't afford to have a half-assed campaign where the AI wouldn't be able to use all of the things that it should be able to use, because then the player will never see those things, right? Mm-hmm. So it was really important to make a campaign where the AI has all the same tools as you do, and the AI actually uses them and combines them in different ways and shows players how they could be combined. And necessarily that ends up in an AI that can actually kill you because you are able to kill it. So
yeah. Well, it's kind of it's the old adage, which is less is more. But my take on it too is you can't really apply a less is more until you know what more even is. And I think that now in today's gaming landscape, we can very clearly see what more is, as we have so many games coming out in unfinished states because they're trying to do too much. So it's actually very refreshing for me to see an appropriately priced game for an appropriately sized game, which, again, I can't imagine you all would take this uncharitably, but it's a nice little game, right? But when I say little, I mean the scope seems small, but when you go in and you have 30 missions, or less than that based on the player choice, right? But you have AI that's actually doing something that, again, it's just not just slapped on the map. You're going to have a unique challenge each time. And again, I really appreciate something like that. I have a prompt here that I wrote down to say, like, what sets Battle for Vera apart, which I kind of feel like we've been talking about, right? But is there anything you all would comment on that?
I think Matic wanted to give this one mostly to me, so
Yeah, I guess
Because
maybe it's better if Necron answered this one.
yeah, because we talked before this for an hour or so, and that's what we came down to. So for me, the most distinct part of Vera is actually the economy, because when you first played and when I first played it, the whole thing with the pipes, it seemed really weird from an RTS. I don't know if it's done anywhere else. Maybe it is. I haven't actually played the Dune 2, so I wouldn't know if it's from there. But it kind of reminds me of something like Factorio, and if we end up working more on the game at some point in the future, I would be really excited to try and explore that a little bit more, because it's just really weird. I don't know. There's something about it where you have like a logistic chain that you don't normally have in RTS games. Normally, you only have two elements, right? You only have the workers and some kind of refinery or collector that you go back to. But here you have that weird in between of the pipes, and you have all those ideas of maybe what could happen if you if you didn't have pipes, if you had some alternate methods of extracting veritium, or maybe you could maybe make some upgrades to pipes because they have a hard rate of how fast they transfer veritium, or maybe you could have more than one set of pipes to transfer it faster. I don't know. It feels like something that's done in Factorio, and that was really interesting to me. If you don't know, Factorio is like a game about making factories, and you have a lot of like how are they called? You have pipes, and you have like moving platforms that transport stuff. I don't remember how would you call them in
Conveyor
English.
belts?
Yeah, conveyor belts,
belts.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And a second thing we could describe, I guess, is that makes Vera sort of unique, is that it's a relatively small scale RTS, but it also has slow unit movement, and it's not really... It's a contradictory game, because it's small with slow units, but also it's kind of fast when the action actually happens. If you go back to my comment under Jay Borina's video when he first played Vera, I think I specifically made the remark that it would be really nice if Matic added a higher game speed setting, because when I played the tutorial maps, I felt like it's just too slow. But then when you play more of it, it's kind of... you can look away for a moment and your base is gone, or your collector is gone.
Yeah.
So it's not really slow paced, but evidently the units are slow, and everything is kind of crammed together on a relatively small space. And then the economy is kind of varies in scale between missions, but it's usually relatively slow as well. So it's a weird set of contradictions. It kind of reminds me of Warcraft 2, because it just has that chaotic feeling to it, I guess. And then it also has like lots of different small mechanics that Matic decided on that you don't necessarily notice when you first play it, but they can be used to like show a degree of mastery over the game. For example, all projectiles, or I don't want to say all, maybe there's an exception, but almost all projectiles are actually do have a small AoE. So if you have two units stacked very close to each other, it's likely that your trooper or your tank will be able to hit both of them at the same time. Which kind of reminds me of how melee attacks often work in ARPG games. For example, that's how it works in Path of Exile. But it was kind of weird to see that in an RTS when I first played. So yeah, I guess that's that. There's some other kinds of mechanics like this, but that's what that's what I had written down.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the economy. I don't really have a question, but I guess commenting on it based on what I've played. I do like the pipes a lot, and not to get way too far ahead of ourselves, but I like the idea too that you can expand on the idea quite a lot, which is like, well, you can either spend more money to make a refinery farther away, and you could say like, well, there's some sort of mechanic through the. Sorry, my dog is barking in the background if you can hear that. But the pipes are like the Viridium moves slower if it has to go through more pipes. It takes longer. The rate decreases, and you can decide whether you want to put your refinery further away or just build pipes because depending on what's cheaper. That's like one idea that could be expanded on. And then, and also when you're attacking, what I like currently too is you can decide whether, like, I could go and destroy all the enemy bots and shut down their economy, or I can try and target the refinery, or I can target the collectors, or I can target the pipes. And like, I think that there's depending on the amount of time, like you said, the movement speed is slow, but the combat is quick. So you kind of have to take into consideration, like, well, there's a big opportunity cost if I want to go really slowly up towards the collectors and kill the bots, which would probably have a bigger impact versus just shutting down the pipes that they could rebuild quickly, but that's also an option. So like, there's a lot of different ways to interact from a combat perspective with the enemy economy. Again, I don't really have a question here, but I just thought I'd kind of throw in my 2 cents because I thought it's a really cool idea what you did with that.
Yeah, actually the whole idea for the economy with pipes and everything came from me misunderstanding a description of some other old game where it said that you should defend your supply lines, and I thought that there are some like conveyor belts, like Necron said, that transport the resources from like mine to this kind of processing center or something like that. And I thought that this is great idea. You could basically go and shoot the pipes and break the flow of resources, right? And that's how I came up with the pipes. I'd say that now I really hope that when I designed this originally, I hope that enemy will attack the player in a way that he will target the pipes, right, directly to break the resource flow and somehow destroy the income of the player. But now when I see how enemy plays, how AI behaves, it's not that common, it doesn't happen very often. It's still a possibility, you can still do that, and an enemy can still do that, but it's not the main way the enemy harasses you or makes your life harder. Usually they focus on the collectors, on bots, because pipes have lower priority when selecting targets, right? So it doesn't happen that often because it's really easy to just rebuild them, right? But that was the original idea, to have some sort of supply line that you can break, that you can harass, and both player and the enemy, they should try to defend it. And that's how it came to life.
I have some more development questions, but before I get into that, I just want to remind everyone, the game is out. You can get it on Steam. The link will be in the description, so make sure to support our friends here. They've been members of my community for a very long time. I just really appreciate all the fun that both of you have given me up until now, and then of course I'll be playing Battle for Vera because it's just fun. I mean, I've played some of it on my own time after it came out, and I'm having a blast. So of course I plan to record it. But it's a great game. It's a great little game. I'd highly recommend it to folks. So again, make sure to support our friends as well. You're gonna have fun. Question for Matic: what's it like going from the hobbyist side of things to actual game development? Is it way different than people would expect, or is it way more similar?
I'd say it is similar. It is kind of similar. When you do mods or even maps in something more complicated than StarCraft 1, well, okay, if you do maps in StarCraft 1, it's pretty simple in a sense. You don't have that many choices. When we talk about mods, then it's probably much more complicated. But you learn bit by bit everything, and then when you start the game development, of course, there are many more things you have to consider, like a resolution, right? Who would worry about that when you make maps in StarCraft or StarCraft 2, right? It's already there. Some parts are already there, so you don't have to really care about those extra things, right? But after you have all the you have the whole framework, you have basically all the game there. You can select unit, you can tell it to move, right? You are basically like maybe 10% done. All the rest is very similar to what you would do if you had just Galaxy Editor in front of you. Implementing all those systems for UI, for unit movement, for, well, I don't want to say multiplayer because I haven't done it, but all those supporting system it's not that hard. You can learn it. You can do it. The most time you will spend on actually making the game, or actually designing units, or actually testing, seeing how they interact with each other, and that's very similar to what you do when you make a map for StarCraft 2.
That's well, that's good to hear. I think there's maybe many people out there who would think to make the jump to proper game dev, I don't even know if that's not really the right word to use, from like the hobbyist perspective. Like there's a lot of really talented people out there, but maybe it's very daunting for them to think, what if I actually tried to make my own game? What would you say to those people?
Well, start small. I guess everyone says that, but you should really limit your scope. Do something very simple. Okay, maybe not even on RTS, right? Maybe something even simpler. Just to learn, just to see how it all comes together. There are many like game engines right now available. You don't have to learn C++ or anything like that. And you can start dipping your toes into those, and yeah, if you have time, if you have some other source of income to support yourself, then it shouldn't be a problem. It's a great hobby. Same as map making. Making, well, proper game dev is can also be a hobby, right? You don't have to work in any specific company. But the most important thing is to start with something small.
That's great advice. I feel like that can be applied to so many things, but it's true. Like don't try and boil the ocean right away.
Yeah, don't try to do MMORPG as your first game.
So I played the demo. I don't know. It was between 6 months to a year. It was quite some time ago. I'd love to hear like what kind of things. It seemed like the game was in a great place at that point from a fundamental perspective. What kind of things happened between then and now to the release?
Well, so I guess it was even 1 year ago, right?
Time
12
flies.
months. Yeah. So after that demo we released on each, I got the first campaign finished pretty quickly, right? But I realized that when I kept adding new stuff, like new missions, or new ways the unit interacts between themselves, I ran into pretty serious performance issues. So maybe it's it's hard to believe when looking at all the huge pixels in Vera, right? But yeah, the game had many performance issues. So
I'm going.
I guess I'm not that good of a programmer.
I'm going.
But yeah, that was it. So Fog of War, for example, was one instance when it was fully optimized, and bigger maps wouldn't work correctly. You would have lag in just without any units, right? Just because of the Fog of War. This one I managed to sort of fairly quickly, but the main and biggest problem, and the problem that still exists even today, is with pathfinding. I guess I spent almost like 6 months, basically half of the development time for this whole game, trying to optimize pathfinding. I've read about different methods. I tried to implement them. I threw everything into the trash and started over, and so on. I know people often complain about pathfinding in RTSs, right? I'm sure they will complain here too, because it's still far from perfect, right? Um, I just hope it's in a okayish state that it should be good enough for people not to, be very mad at it. But yeah, that was my biggest problem. The engine I used didn't offer the method that would be good enough to implement RTS. I had to come up with something of my own, and yeah, it was really painful. But I learned a lot in the process.
That's always how it goes. I feel, like anywhere in the IT world, you have this great idea, and you're like, surely it's going to be really hard to do X, Y, and Z. And then you start, and you're like, oh, actually, X, Y, and Z, that all worked out great. But A, B, and C have taken me 8 years to figure out, and now you're like an
Yeah.
expert in something totally different than you ever expected.
I wouldn't call myself an expert in pathfinding, absolutely not. I still can't believe how people, like, in '95 when Command and Conquer released, right? They had pathfinding, grid-based pathfinding already there. CPUs were much slower than they are today, but it somehow worked, right? Like 30 years ago, and now with super processors, quick and reliable, I cannot have 100 units moving at the same time because it's too much. So
Right.
I don't know what really goes into it more than I did, but there are some tricks that only some people know about. I'm sure of it.
So, Necron, have you snuck in any, what is it, Lost Colony? Is that the game that I'm thinking of? The Mars game? Have you snuck in any references here?
I really tried. I was really close to commissioning an artist just to. I will actually have something to show for that in the future, maybe. But you have really easy to make sprites in Vera, so I thought, what if, what if we had Dark Colony aliens,
Dark
but in
Colony.
Vera, yeah. But that's a DLC tier addition if it ever happens. So there's nothing currently there. Although there were some instances where we were talking with Matic about the design, and I used Dark Colony as an example, and then after some time he was just like, "Oh, let me guess where that example is from, Dark Colony."
Absolutely. What do you
So
yeah.
I know. So you just released like last week, and I feel almost bad asking this question because again, you just released, everything's brand new. But what are your future plans?
right away? Can do.
Well, honestly, I'm not sure yet.
Your base is
Maybe
under
if the game,
attack.
does incredibly well in terms of sales or general
Structure
interest,
complete.
I would somehow feel obligated to release some sort of DLC or some sort of extra campaign. Maybe, this different difficulty levels we spoke about earlier. Uh, but for now, I'm not
Under
sure.
attack.
I guess most of all, I would like to rest for a bit, do nothing. And maybe try something after I rest. Maybe try a different, smaller project. Um, we'll see. It's not decided yet. At least from my point of view.
Well, the fact that you got here and you released the game is huge. It really is huge. I mean, I know it's very tiring, and now you're like, well, okay, I got it out. And but like truly, I hope that you feel accomplished because you really deserve it. You guys both really you put out something great, and you make it really easy for someone like me to come on here and be like, please go and buy this game and help our friends, not just because they're our friends, but because I genuinely think it's a great game. Again, you make it very easy. I think people might come to me and be like, hey, can you market my thing? And I'd be like, I guess I can play it, and then people could decide for themselves. But here, like, it's really easy. You've made it very easy for me to be like, it's actually really fun. So, like, I think if people were to go out and get it, they would have a great time. You both should feel really, really accomplished for what you've been able to put out. We were talking a little before we started recording, just kind of like the challenge of the landscape of like, how do you get eyes on the game? Like, I don't know if anyone really has the answer to this. What do you guys think?
You are under attack.
It's like a separate branch of game dev. I mean, marketing is. You can spend your life learning about it and just focus on it. I don't know. I don't really have a plan. I pitched the demo to a couple of guys I know. I also gave some keys, right, for people to just try it out, and if they will, like it, maybe they will write a review or put out some videos on YouTube or something like that. And that's basically it.
You are under attack.
Yeah, when you release on Steam, you will receive a lot of spam emails, right, from people trying to cooperate on marketing, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I ignored those. Basically, I ignored all of those. I feel like it's, well, maybe some of those are okay. Like it's fair business, like distribution of keys to someone, to some sort of influencers. But from what I read, it doesn't really give you that much eyes on your games. And the rest is just simply a scam too.
Yes. So apparently there's a lot of people who will try to get keys for things as scams just to like collect games that they never actually play, but it's just like a weird game collection scam. It's very odd, but yeah, I don't envy that. And so much of it does feel kind of like luck. Like obviously at the core fundamental of it, you have to make something good, but like there's so much luck in like if it gets picked up, like it has to enter the jet stream, and then once it's in the jet stream, whether it's good or bad determines if it really takes off. But you have to get in the jet stream in the first place, and I think unfortunately so much of that is just luck. So we do our best, but in any case, again, y'all should really be proud of what you made. It's great fun.
Yeah, I had releasing game on Steam on my bucket list, right? So now I feel accomplished.
Nice.
At least one item is done. I don't know if I will ever release anything else, hopefully, but we'll see.
Yeah. Understood. Well, hey, thanks for joining me for this. Well, you know what? Let me open up back to you all. Was there anything that we maybe missed, or anything you want to talk about regarding the game? Anything fair game? Take us back to any earlier topic that you all want to talk about.
Lead me. Your will. What can you?
I will. take that as a
Not
no.
sure. No,
We-
no. I think we're fine. We are already for like 1 hour here, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
this one little story I want to tell because when we were talking with Matic earlier, we were like talking over how we got into map making and modding, and he started telling me about about how when he was a kid he was drawing game levels on paper, and I was like, I remember the exact same thing, or like I didn't actively remember it when he said it, but before he said it. But when he said it, I like remembered tons of like maps I was drawing. I think they were like based on a older TS game called Clash or something along those lines. I don't even know if it's an English or maybe it's just a Polish game. But I found it really funny that we both have heard the same story.
Yeah, same game and everything. That's awesome. Well, cool. Thanks for your time. Reminder, everyone, the game is out now. Check the link out in the description, and let me know what you think. Let us know in the comments how you feel about the game. Leave a review on Steam. I'm sure these two would be happy to hear from you.